Welcome to I Said What I Said, a sports podcast giving you opinions not heard anywhere else. I'm your host, Brad Wakai, alongside my co-host, Tyson Gentry. And Tyson, he's got the Mets gear on today. They took a 2-1 lead over the Phillies. If you're watching this today, my Phillies, I told him before the series, the Phillies are going to lose. So I'm like, whatever. He's trying to be nice and play it off like, oh, we can record another time if you're I'm like, dude, I knew they were going to lose. So Tyson's happy. I'm indifferent.
Well, I didn't know if you wanted to push it to, like, we could push it to tomorrow and then we could record after the Mets close you out, or like however you wanted to do that. I'm gonna regret saying that for sure. But no, it's been fun. We don't talk a ton of baseball on here, but there's something special about October, man. It's like the NHL starts back up too, and it's just we're in it. It's every sport, everything imaginable. So my pockets are hurting, but I'm having a heck of a time.
All right. Well, we talk about NFL today, and we got some big news in the NFL coming up. We'll cover that all as we get through this thing. But first, we got to get into our rant, and it's got to be something that just happened with the news that Robert Saleh got fired. And so let's get into it now.
Just say it.
And Tyson, the Jets continue to jet. Coming off a disappointing loss overseas in London, Robert Saleh gets fired by the New York Jets 5 games into the season. So this is a time where we normally rant about anything that happened. We both are talking about the same thing with the Jets. I'm going to throw it to you, and then I'm going to go after.
So I'm going to start this by saying we did a preview show where you were very, very high on the New York Jets, and I get to victory lap a little bit because I pushed back. I said, I don't know if Bobby's keeping his job all the way throughout the year. I wasn't so sure it was going to be week 5, and I didn't feel like it was going to be like this. I've never been the biggest Robert Saleh fan. Personally, I think he's a heck of a coordinator. I don't know about the head coaching thing. I don't feel like we got to learn all that much from his tenure in New York, and that's where the rant comes in. This team is 1 game out of first place in the division. They play the Bills on Monday night. This is something that is very much attainable for them. He's dealing with a 40-year-old quarterback coming off of like what used to be a career-ending injury, now is still a pretty big deal. It's a clown show. Like Woody Johnson continually, and Joe Douglas too, they continually do things that are not in congruence with the roster or with where the roster is at. They go out and they get Aaron Rodgers, and that's fine. The rest of the roster was still not good enough to win last year. And I know we did all the Jet stuff in the preseason and all those things. They weren't beating the Bills. They weren't beating the Chiefs. And they're not going to do it again this year, whether Robert Saleh is a coach or not. Brad, one of the big things to me is it's really hard to pick a head coach in the NFL. It's even harder to pick a good one. But it's a general manager's job to get the quarterback. This is not like it's not his fault that he had to play with Zach Wilson and Trevor Siemian and Joe Flacco, and the list goes on and on and on. This is the number 1 defense since he took over. They look good again. They lost a heartbreaker in London, and Woody Johnson had some rich friends there, and he got embarrassed. And what did he do? He overreacted. He fired his head football coach in week 5, and he wasted a season where they went out and they traded these things to go get Aaron Rodgers. And we got this guy. Devontae Adams solved some of these problems. Like, you could have been patient enough. The Oakland or Vegas is going to end up eating some of that contract. That's neither here nor there, whatever it is. This is just what they do. And this is – you want to fire Nathaniel Hackett? I don't know. I'm going to promote Todd Downing, though, to calling plays. Well, you're fired. What?
Tyson, I'm in the same boat as you. And if you're watching on YouTube, it's titled Jets Continue to Jet because we know that's what this team does. And more specifically, they're in the category of bad franchises in the National Football League. The Jacksonville Jaguars, the Cleveland Browns. Just go through the lineage of bad franchises who can't get out of their own way, and you'll see the Jets as the poster child for it. And this is an example of why. Do we think that Robert Saleh is one of the top 10 coaches in the NFL? No. We've sat here and said that. Is he a good defensive mind? Yes. Is he a leader? At times it felt like he was. The guys in the 49ers liked him, felt like he lost the locker room a little bit here. Some of that's maybe a little bit out of control with what you said, the quarterback situation. Whether, Zach Wilson not being able to play and Aaron Rodgers, taking a lot of oxygen out of the room and, maybe some back channels and backstabbing going on. I don't know any of that. That's just kind of what it feels like. But to treat a guy who is respected across the league, and Robert Saleh, and not allow him to address the football team, to have security escort him out of the building like he's a terror threat, is unbelievable. It's completely disrespectful. You can handle things in a much different fashion than this. But again, the Jets make themselves look like assholes. And that's what they do. Woody Johnson, and he's wondering why he can't get the top line coaches, why Bill Belichick never wanted to be a coach, or why they're not going to get him again, why they're not going to get these forward-thinking coaches who want to uproot their family and coach for a guy who at a whim will just fire him and treat him like shit. This is what you get. It's not shocking that this is how the Jets are going to go out. And 5 games into the season, we're already talking about a team that's in disarray. It's unbelievable.
The Pittsburgh Steelers, the Baltimore Ravens, the Kansas City Chiefs, like whatever good organization you want to name, they move in congruence with each other. And we're sitting here, and they trade for Hassan Reddick, and we're like, okay, like that's interesting that he's going to the New York Jets. It was funny when he was sitting out, and it was like, haha, like this is take that Jets. And now it's like, oh, this is just another example that we've had all year long that things aren't right, and he's forfeiting $800,000 rather than showing up to work. And you traded for a guy you knew you had to pay. We've been hearing tons of stuff. That's the other part, dude. You just named a report that came out half an hour after Robert Saleh got fired. There's been 5 more of those reports. Loose lips sink ships. So I haven't heard shit about the Pittsburgh Steelers organization in 20 years. I don't know what goes on in there. I don't know what the Ravens are thinking. All I know about the Chiefs is that they're going to draft well, but I find that out after the draft. I don't get tipped off. And so it's just another example. Get the reporters out of the room, man. Like, just remember when the Browns said they needed an adult? The Jets had one. Like, and they fired him because they have a man-child running the entire thing.
Aaron Rodgers is going to go on Pat McAfee's show. I know he's going to deny about his
aggressively blame the media for all of this, and it's all the locker room's fine and all this stuff. Dude, you're part of the problem.
And we'll see what he says there. So that'll be some insights, and there'll be more reports coming out and all that stuff. But Tyson, let's get into the next thing here. We got more to talk about. I mean, there's a lot of stuff coming out, and we got to share our opinion on what just went on.
Armchair quarterback.
And we got to rip some more coaches. I mean, Zach Taylor and McDermott with some of the most brain-dead end-of-game scenario and situational handlings that I've freaking seen in a long time. I mean, Zach Taylor, let's start here with the Cincinnati Bengals. They lose a game they have to win. Their season's over. They're not going to make the playoffs. This is a disaster. He's going to get fired at the end of the year. You can book that. I will be willing to say Zach Taylor will not have a job with the Cincinnati Bengals at the end of the season when they miss the playoffs. I don't think they're coming back. This defense isn't good enough. And yeah, Joe Burrow can put the cape on, but clearly the head coach didn't feel like he had the cape long enough to allow him to push the ball down the field against a Baltimore Ravens defense and secondary that has been susceptible to the big play and was getting shredded up the entire game by Joe Burrow, T. Higgins, and Jamar Chase. To run the ball 3 times and rely on your kicker, Zach McPherson or Evan McPherson, to make a 50-plus yarder when the guy's shown that he's not the money Mac or whatever he was called back in his rookie season. He misses kicks. And what does he do? He misses this one, and then you lose a game that you had no business losing when you were up 10 in the fourth quarter. I know Joe Burrow threw an interception. Ooh, an interception. Was that a big deal at the time? Sure. Let the Ravens get back in the game. That doesn't mean you neuter your offense. That doesn't mean you neuter your quarterback. You still be aggressive. And when you're not, this is why I always push back on people who get mad at over-aggression. Because when you're not and you allow the other team to dictate, this is what happens. And so Zach Taylor took the cop out. He went conservative. They are now eliminated from the playoffs. He's now not going to have a job at the end of the season.
He took the cop out and he took the air out. I mean, the first play after McPherson misses the kick, and I'm going to blame that on the holder. It doesn't change the fact that you shouldn't have been in a position to kick that field goal. First play is a pitch to Derrick Henry, and it's a near touchdown. Game's over, right? Like all the air is out of the building. The team is sad. Everything is it's over now. You knew the defense sucks. You knew you couldn't give the ball back to these guys because you held Derrick Henry in check for 4 quarters. You got to play another one, and it's Derrick Henry. It's one carry against a defense who stinks, and you allow that to happen. I mean, Jamar Chase has 190 yards and 2 touchdowns. T. Higgins looks like he's pretty much back to form. Like, he looked really good to me on Sunday. I think he had 8 for 83 and 2 touchdowns as well. They still can't run the ball. I think that Zach Taylor was thinking, hey, I can scheme up anything for Chase Brown and Zach Moss. I don't really care. Joe Mixon, who. That's an issue that we're not really going to solve. And I mean, their average Chase Brown was under 4 yards a carry, and Zach Moss was under 3, and I believe that's 2 weeks in a row for him under 3 yards. You don't win divisional games playing like that. You don't win divisional games playing soft and playing scared. We're only a couple weeks removed from a cowardly punt from Zach Taylor, which if you go look at the index, he did it all year last year. He had a ton of these moments. This is not your gunslinger. Was it 2022 when they went to the Super Bowl? This is not that team. This is not that coach. And this offense needs somebody better.
Sean McDermott was over-aggressive, and I just said I'm not going to push back. But there's a time and place. I mean, you're freaking backed up like inside your 5-yard line. Why the hell are you throwing the football there? You know, if they get one in,
but the quarterback just got knocked out.
It made absolutely zero sense. And so then they end up punting. They don't complete a single pass. I know you're trying to get a first down. And if that's the case, then why are you throwing go routes? Like, none of it made sense. And Joe Brady has some blame on this too, the offensive coordinator. But you're the head coach. Like, you got to step in when you see the first one. It's like, hey, let's be a little smarter here. And I know if you just run the football, they're going to call a timeout. They don't have timeouts. That's the situation. They're not able to freaking throw it 5 yards and get in field goal range and then give you 2 losses in a row. Unbelievable. And Sean McDermott, you know, I think the shine's off him a little bit. I think we're still bigger fans of him than the general consensus. Like, we think he's a better coach than people who just think he's an idiot. And I don't think that he's lost the locker room. I think if that was the case, we would have seen a lot of bad things coming out of this Bills team like a while ago. But holy smokes, man, how many times can you just make the wrong decision? And it feels like that's been the storyline since they lost, ever since that 12 seconds they gave up against the Chiefs or whatever it was.
That's what I was going to say, is you can set your watch to this, essentially, with Sean McDermott. In like, at some point in the year, he's going to do something. Everybody's going to turn on him. The Bills will turn this thing around. They're going to donkey the Jets on Monday, and we're going to go, I told you we love that guy. But this Sunday, he sucked. And that was a horrible way to end the football game. I might have had a Bills money line ticket if you listened to the betting show. That was a tough way to lose. But it wasn't like James Cook had a horrible game, you know, up until that point. He was playing fine. And again, like you said, you have to be able to at least take the timeouts away. The bigger part to me is Josh Allen I think you texted me. He's like, he just got to it. Like, somebody saved this guy. They're giving him smelling salts on the sideline. And then you try him back out there. He's seeing triple, and you say, throw it as far as you can. And that's going to be the offense here. No clear secure. Keon Coleman and Dalton Kincaid were not on the field for 38% of the Bills' plays. Why? Why are these guys taking reps off in favor of some of these other dudes that you're putting on the field? I thought that this was going to be a big Josh Allen running day. He only really took off 4 times. Like, all of these things kind of accumulate or add up to whatever happens there at the end. But you give away a field goal to a guy who's automatic. In the NFL these days, he's on the 40. That thing's going in. And that's what we know it to be. I still have plenty of faith in the Bills, but this is much like with Zach Taylor. It feels like we keep doing it with these guys, and it's getting to the point where windows close fast, and both these organizations might miss theirs.
Yeah, and I do want to point out, while Josh Allen appeared to be knocked out, and everybody's like, oh, he's got a concussion. He was an independent neurologist who is in charge of this. He's a team doctor.
You cleared him to come back. Let him out there and throw the football 3 times.
Oh, I agree. That's a completely separate thing on the coaches. But I know people are like, how the Bills let him in? It's like, oh my God, he's clearly concussed. It's like, guys, listen, buddy, you sit and you watch on your couch like all of us. Like, maybe leave the actual brain stuff to the guys who are neurologists. And these guys are independent from the team. They're hired by the NFL to do this. It's just because it looks bad and scary doesn't mean that's an automatic concussion. Now, concussion symptoms can come later, but in that moment, he was cleared. So I do want to point that out. We can have maybe a conversation if that should be the process, but I think I just seen a lot of people like, oh, the Bills, how does this happen? Like, God, come on, like, do a little bit more research. But
you just
Tyson, we want
Smith movie.
Yeah, geez, he needs something after slapping Chris Rock. We wanted to avoid this topic, we really did, but we got to touch on it, man, because there's more of this drama of Deshaun Watson and the Cleveland Browns, and this time it's a situation where Deshaun Watson walks off the field. Kevin Stefanski wants to go for it. Apparently, he counted 12 men in the huddle, so he walks off. They have to burn a timeout, settle for a field goal. Like, the whole operation is a joke. Tyson, Deshaun Watson was 15 of 28 for 125 yards, a touchdown. His QBR was 8.5. He was sacked 7 times. I know this offensive line is horrible. This is a Commanders defense who is the worst secondary, the worst defense on an EPA per play basis when facing the pass. This guy is done, Deshaun Watson. I've talked about how it's malpractice for the Browns owners to continue to run him out there. This is a Browns offense that with Joe Flacco off the couch was a top 10 offense. They made the playoffs because Joe Flacco was a quarterback and Deshaun Watson wasn't. This is clearly not a Stefanski decision. This is coming from Jimmy Haslam. This is coming from the front office. This is coming from people who are too afraid to say that they made a mistake, and it's embarrassing. They're costing this team a chance. I don't know what you do going forward. Maybe this is the smart play. Just run Deshaun Watson so you get the freaking number 1 overall pick. That's how bad this offense is. I don't know what the answer is, but they got to go to Jameis Winston if they want to save face. If not, just come out and say, we're doing everything we can and tanking, and we want to get the number 1 pick and restart this thing. That's the only thing I can think about of why they continue to run this guy out there.
And please don't let Jameis play this weekend. Go Birds. I think that makes his team like way scary. Dude, he gets in the game. He throws 1 pass, 16 yards. Like, I know it's a tiny sample size. It's as small as you can get. But it was just like, wow. He just threw for – a tenth of what it feels like Deshaun's thrown for this entire season on 1 dropback. Look, Jerome Ford was awesome last year. We're still waiting for the Nick Chubb return. But the running game isn't going to save this football team. And that was kind of like when Joe Flacco came in and saved them. It was after the running game had kept them afloat, essentially. And that it can't do that this season, which means that the Browns are going to be horrible. The Deshaun thing is the Deshaun thing. We talked about it a ton. He's a drama queen. Nobody's done more to hurt guaranteed contracts in the NFL. But as long as we're on the topic of the Browns, this defense can't travel for anything. Like, no matter where they go, the defense doesn't get off the bus. It's barely been present this season. I think there's more problems going on in Cleveland right now than Deshaun Watson. I agree. I don't think they'll ever move off him. I think this is – hey, man, we made our bed. We're going to lie in it. This is the sunk cost fallacy at its highest degree. But, I mean, of all quarterbacks who started this year, is there one that you wouldn't take over Deshaun Watson? I'm not talking about EPA and PFF and all of those things. I know Bryce Young is way down there. But
I take Bryce Young over Deshaun Watson in a heartbeat.
Be the only starting quarterback in the NFL where you're looking at everybody else's situation and you're jealous.
This is the worst quarterback situation in the league, Tyson. I mean,
like ever.
Will Levis, people hate him. There's something there. Same with Bryce Young. He's a young player. He's on a rookie contract. It's over for Deshaun Watson. I agree with you. There's not a situation that's worse.
It's disgusting. Who could have thought?
It couldn't happen, as you say, to a better guy either. 49ers get upset, and it's the National Football League, and we know it's not a week-to-week thing. But, Tyson, I think there's alarm bells that are going off a little bit more surrounding this 49ers team. It's not just the fact that Christian McCaffrey has Achilles tendonitis in both of his legs. Deebo Samuel's back. It's great. George Kittle's back. Okay. Brandon Ayuk finally had a breakout in this offensive line, blah, blah, blah. Yet they're 2-3. Brock Purdy has been a little bit more injury prone this season. He threw 2 interceptions. They couldn't win a game because their kicker was hurt. They could not execute in the red zone. Just kind of, what are you seeing with this 49ers team? Is this enough to get you up, kind of raise some alarm bells 5 games in? I
think so. I think it's okay for alarm bells to go off. Not in like this team's going to miss the playoffs way. I still am not ready to go that far. A ton of it is injuries, and we'll see, what happens when some of these guys get healthy. But they're really struggling to close football games, dude. Like really, really struggling to close games. The defense is so banged up that it's hard to pass judgment, but it just doesn't feel the same at this very moment. It very likely could. Fred Warner is the best and can make a lot of bad situations go away. But this is a game in the past. We talked about it. We joked around on the preview show saying this is like a classic backdoor spot for the Arizona Cardinals. Neither one of us thought that this was going to result in the Cardinals winning the football game. And right. I certainly didn't think it was going to result in the Cardinals winning the football game when Kyler Murray throws for sub 200 yards. I know he took off. He ran for 83. That's awesome. That's 270 combined all-purpose yards for Kyler Murray. Normally when the Cardinals win games like this, he's throwing for 350 yards. He's running for 50. James Conner is running angry over everybody. But you're getting beat by Michael Wilson. And that's the problem. And like Marv had a heck of a catch to keep the game alive, but he was relatively non-existent in this game. I thought they did as good a job as anybody really can do against Trey McBride. you took the weapons away. You did what you were supposed to do, and you still got beat by a division rival, a team that just got embarrassed. And in the NFL, that means normally they're going to come out swinging and somebody's in trouble the next week. So I think that's why the Cardinals were live a little bit here. But I don't know if it's coaching or what, but they are struggling to put teams away, and that's a scary place to be.
Deebo Samuel, 3 targets, 1 catch, 11 yards, 3 carries, 9 yards. His long was 7. So the other 2 went for 2 yards. I mean, it just doesn't feel the same, Tyson. I think you got to look at Brock Purdy as the reason why. Like I'm looking at his stats year over year.
I thought he was good.
Yeah, but doesn't something feel off? 65.6% completion percentage. This is with Ayuk. This is with Samuel. This is with George Kittle, who's actually looking like a real threat. 6 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. So again, having a hard time finishing in the red zone. He's been sacked 12 times. That's through 5 games. He was sacked 28 times last year in 16. His passer rating is down to under 100 for the first time, 95.3. His QBR, 66. That's lower than his rookie season. Last year he was at 73.4. We talked about there being limitations with Purdy. Like what happens when he signs the deal? What happens when you have to move on from a Debo? What happens when you don't have Trent Williams as your left tackle? I think they got to be very careful. He's been good on the rookie contract. He's been good as Mr. Irrelevant. I think we're kind of seeing some of this stuff get figured out a little bit, Tyson. Am I being too hyperbolic there?
I don't know if you're being hyperbolic, but I think you're being a hater. I'm just kidding. But I think he's been fine. That last interception was totally backbreaking. I think I wouldn't say he's the reason they're losing games, but I think your point is more so it's been hard to really say, like, what is this guy with how stacked the roster is? And you're finding out slowly through guys missing time that, it lowers the ceiling a bit when you can't have blue chippers all over the place for this kid. Does that mean he's not going to be able to figure it out? I don't think so. I still think, there's a lot of bad quarterbacks in the NFL. I think he's better than a lot of guys, but that doesn't mean that he's the guy that maybe he was billed to be his first season when they go to the NFC title game. I said it 100 times, and you make fun of me every time. Something about Kyle Shanahan screams, "I don't win." Like I don't win, and I don't care how many Super Bowls you go to, how many NFC title games you make. This stuff just keeps happening to this guy. Where in second half comes and like we can't get these guys figured out. We're slow to start against a team we've seen 150 times. I beat Jonathan Gannon defenses so many times I don't even have to prepare for this. Like I don't know. There's a lot going on in San Francisco right now, and I think. I have to be the only one in the country that's okay to blame this guy sometimes.
No, what are you talking about? I've been blaming Shanahan with you. McVay, I have the soft spot for. I'll never criticize him.
How long I can get you to let me go? I thought you were going to jump in immediately and start ranting on him with me.
No, I didn't know if you were being tongue-in-cheek until the end. That was just too much. I couldn't let you lie to the good American people any longer. Soil my name. But Tyson, let's close out armchair quarterback with this. The future is now in New England, and Drake Maye, the number 3 overall pick in the 2024 NFL draft, will now be the starting quarterback for the New England Patriots. And I got to say, brother, good luck, because your offensive line is atrocious. The weapons are terrible. Jacoby Brissett, we are not big fans of Jacoby Brissett in terms of the ceiling, in terms of what a team can accomplish with him as the starting quarterback, but he can understand where blitzes are coming from. He can read defenses on a level. He understands how to shift the offensive line, things like that. I'm not sure if this offensive staff has the capability of doing that, Tyson. I don't know if they have the ability to help out the rookie, Drake Maye, in doing that. So I hope he doesn't get hurt, and I know that's kind of like a nefarious way to think about things, or maybe I'm using that wrong, kind of like a negative way probably is a better term. But I think it's at least smart to go to him now. I'll put it this way. Yes, the line sucks, but you got to see what you got in them. This is a dead season for the Patriots. We already knew. We thought they were going to finish with the worst record in the NFL. I think they still can do that, but give him some live reps and let's see what happens.
Yeah, nefarious kind of makes it sound like you're going to injure Drake Maye yourself.
Yeah, thank you.
At some point in this. So here's just a little blurb. We don't have a ton of info on how DeMeco Ryans treats rookie quarterbacks, but we do, if you recall, remember when he blitzed Caleb Williams, 41.7% of his dropbacks to welcome him to the NFL. They had 12 pressures and 5 sacks when they blitzed. That was 20 times. Drake Maye is getting the same treatment. It's going to be worse. This offensive line is going to get this kid killed. I don't understand why. Like, this is kind of a philosophical thing, I guess, if you're a trial by fire person, and you think that's the best way to get better, then I totally understand feeding him to the wolves a little bit. But it does feel like this has a potential to like ruin this thing before it starts. We had some real concerns with Drake Maye footwork before the draft, and so now that it's going to be happening in real time with guys who can't get open with the run game. Ramondre was good this week, actually, and Gibson was good too. But that's not a week-over-week thing. That's just you're playing against the Miami Dolphins. Tony Pollard just looked like he was going back to an all-pro team playing against them a couple weeks ago. It just doesn't feel like the wisest. It feels rash for a coaching staff that has tons of time. Like, I thought that was the whole thing with this group was they actually do have a 3 to 5 year leash, which made sense when Drake Maye was benched or not bench, that's the wrong term, but you understand what I'm saying. This feels like, hey, let's shake things up because we're already like losing the locker or something else is going on here is what I think.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, and it does feel rushed. It's like you guys came in this regime, and it's supposed to be, wow, we're changing the culture, and Bill wasn't, it wasn't fun under Bill, and we're going to do things differently. We're going to get a long runway to do it. So the Robert Kraft and Jonathan Kraft can prove that they were right. Like they were right to get rid of the Hall of Famer, and all of a sudden, like they're getting booed, and the Patriots fans aren't happy. And I think they saw the documentary about Bill Belichick and was like, "Wait a minute, maybe Bill wasn't the problem here." And now Bill's gone, and this thing looks like a dumpster fire. I think this is a way to get the kind of the fans like, "No, there's hope. Like we got the number 3 guy. Let's believe in something. Let's believe in Drake Maye." That's what it feels like to me.
It's unfair.
It's unfair for sure. I mean, but I think from an organizational perspective, while I think it's rushed, and I think both you and I wouldn't put him in here with this offensive line, I get why they're doing it because they're like, we kind of hear the boo birds and we got the rabbit ears right now. Let's throw them out there.
Bo Nix has won a couple of games in a row and looks fine doing it. Jaden Daniels looks like he's the best quarterback in the entire league right now, and Caleb Williams just throws for 300 yards. That's the competition you're going to get compared to in the media, tossing this kid out here. The narrative is that you already lost. Like the media is going to run Drake Maye into the ground. People hated him after getting in for 7 plays a week. You know what I mean? It feels like the optics of this are going to get real rough for New England.
All right, Tyson, let's turn the page to this upcoming weekend. We got a bunch of games that we got to get into, unlike last weekend. So let's get in. I'm trying to find this thing here. I apologize, people.
Marquee matchups.
And the first one we're going to go to Commanders at Ravens. Now, Tyson just mentioned it with Jaden Daniels looking like one of the best quarterbacks, if not the best quarterback in the NFL as a rookie. Like he's been phenomenal. And this Ravens team, they could be sitting here at 2-3. They actually made the fourth quarter comeback instead of being the team that the fourth quarter comeback happened to. So they go back home. They face a Commanders team with real weaknesses on the defense. I'm looking at this. Can Jaden Daniels continue to do this? Because if he does against the Ravens defense, guy got shredded up by Joe Burrow and company. I mean, this is going to be just an insane run that maybe we haven't seen before.
And it's his biggest test, I think. And I think that's why we have this one circle. They played the Bucs to start the season, and that's when everyone was like, well, the Commanders are dead, so this doesn't matter. And then they beat the Giants. They beat the Bengals, who we found out have a horrible defense. They beat the Cardinals, who did respond well and beat the 49ers, but we haven't been super impressed with what they have going on to this point in the year. And then they beat the Browns, who we talked about a little bit earlier on the defensive side of the football. The Ravens aren't world beaters on the defensive side of the end. That's not what I'm saying, but it is a group that's been around for a long time as far as like the way they do things. And the way they do things is welcome guys like this to the NFL. So if he passes this test, like forget rookie of the year. Let's start thinking bigger. I mean, it's the run he's on right now is insane. The offense looks awesome. They're running no huddle at a rate that I don't have a number in front of me, but it's got to be the highest in NFL history. Like it has to be. It's like at half the place or no huddle. They're flying up and down the field. He finally Jaden Daniels finally found his rhythm with Terry McLaurin. And this is for us, dude, because we knew Diami Brown didn't suck. We've been saying that the whole time. It turns out this guy can play. We're really, really excited for it. I don't know off the top of my head. This has got to be the most athletic. This is a college quarterback matchup in an NFL game, which is really fun.
Oh, I mean, yeah, you would think maybe Vic back in the day going up against some. I don't know. I can't think of it. But Tyson, this is what's crazy to me. The Baltimore Ravens are third in EPA per play on offense at 0.14. The Commanders are first at 0.31. Double the offensive output that the Ravens are doing. This offense is insane. The best success percentage, best EPA per pass, best EPA per rush. Now, the Ravens have a good offense as well. They're sitting third after last week. But here's the kicker. The Commanders, the worst defense in the league in EPA per play. So I think that's where it could get them, especially going on the road. But this should be an absolute banger. Absolute banger. Tyson, next one we want to talk and preview, Lions at Cowboys. Now, Lions are coming off a bye. Cowboys are coming off that insane game against the Steelers where that finished at like 1:30 a.m. Eastern time. Huge rain delay, thunderstorms, all that stuff. Escape against the Steelers after looking like they should win by 50. They go back home. It's in a dome. Lions get to prepare. This is a defense. I don't think this defense is good for the Cowboys. I mean, it's kind of crazy when you look at some of the scoring opportunities that teams have had against them. Lions get a week to prepare for this. What do you expect them here?
What I'm expecting in this game, I think the Lions are going to look good. I think that we were talking about it pre-show. It both felt like a game that I can't believe the Cowboys just won that football game, and how did the Cowboys only win that game by that much? So maybe the Steelers were a house of cards. Maybe you were on something a little bit. But if we're going to talk about the Dallas Cowboys, the number one thing to me right now, throw the football to CeeDee Lamb in the second half. Throw it to him in the fourth quarter. I think he's got like 5 catches for 26 yards in the fourth quarter this entire season. Tolbert was awesome in winning that football game. That's not the way that this thing should be run. The offense should funnel through 88. We saw what happened a year ago when he just got hyper-targeted, and the offense went to a different level. And it became harder to stop. It hid some of those things on the defensive side of the ball because the middle of that defense is just getting ripped apart right now. It feels like half the two deep is in infirmary somewhere. But throw the ball to CeeDee Lamb in the fourth quarter because it's still hard to judge the Cowboys. Dowdle just had his best game ever. I'm not believing in the run game, but I might have to eat some crow on him here. But I think the Lions are just too physical on the offensive side of the football.
I'm with you. I mean, this is a really good Lions offense. Jared Goff hasn't played his best, and they're freaking 7th in EPA per play. They're 9th in EPA per pass. And there is a lot of room for this team to go. And Tyson, when I'm looking at this thing, yeah, the Lions defense, we kind of always make fun of them. And, the Lions defense isn't that good. They're 20th in EPA per play. This Cowboys defense, what everybody thought was vaunted at one point, is 24th in EPA per play. Micah Parsons is out. I don't think the secondary is very good. This, to me, is going to be an eat Lions performance, especially getting through this offensive line.
Disregard the flag behind Brad and the jersey behind me.
All right, let's close it here. Bills, Jets. Now, it's a Bills team coming off of a frustrating loss, and the Jets team coming back from overseas. So, and with a new head coach, Jeff Ulbrich taking that's a big thing here. But I'm trying to weigh what to expect of going to London, coming back from London, not having to buy. These are becoming more and more common. This is on Monday Night Football, so I guess you get a little bit more time to prepare. But it's a divisional matchup. Tyson, where's your head at with this one? I just have no clue.
So, personal philosophy is whenever a head coach gets fired in the NFL, it's a bump, and that team's going to roll the next week, and they're going to look better than we thought. But the problem with the New York Jets wasn't the defense. We already laid that out. The problem's been the offense. I think that Buffalo takes this one very, very seriously. And, look, this might be the Devontae Adams off. This is two teams that I think could use the services. The Bills need a one really bad. The other part, dude, that nobody's talking about, and maybe it's just because we're his biggest fans in the world, Khalil Shakir is really important to this offense, and he's got to play in order for them to look their best. And so I want the Bills playmakers on the field. I want to see a Breece Hall resurgence. I'm hoping for offense in this one because it feels like these are two teams that haven't given it to us yet.
I'm sorry, if Breece Hall can't play well in this one, I mean,
are we starting to talk
what are we doing here?
I mean, this is why, look, we push back on the don't pay running backs thing so hard because it just feels like some of them are really good and you should pay them. But this is that crowd gets to go, well, look, he hurt himself, came back for a year and was good. Now he looks dead. He looks worse than Braylon Allen. Isaiah Davis looks more explosive. I think Breece will be fine, but he's got to do something.
This is the third worst defense in EPA per rush. If you can't go in this one, and if you can't explode and look like the generational or at least the super talented rising star that everybody was claiming coming into the season in this one, Houston, we have a problem. I mean, for real. I mean, we're talking, do you try to offload him? I mean, Braylon Allen looks like he's the future there. I can't believe we're even saying that, but that's a situation we're in.
This is something to pay attention to for all you like Breece Hall people out there who think we're overreacting. Maybe we are. But when it's passing downs, Braylon Allen's a pass pro guy. And he's already getting on the field that way. That's a scary thing. That leads to guys taking jobs. And we've seen it 100 times in the NFL. And Breece can pass block too, but not at the same level. So that's something to monitor.
All right. Well, wasn't a ton of stuff going on the field, Tyson, this past week. I think we're still kind of building into the season. You know, underdogs continue to hit at a high rate, or at least the big dogs do, winning outright. It's crazy. But Saleh gets fired. Drake Maye takes over. We got some other upsets, we mentioned with the Niners. Like, subscribe, and share the show. That'll do it for our NFL pod today. Follow us on socials if you'd like. But if you're watching on YouTube, smash that like button on the way out. Hit subscribe so you don't miss a single thing that we got going on. College reaction coming later. And then later in the week, we're giving out our picks. We're starting to heat up a little bit there. So join us for a college episode. We'll speak to you guys then. Peace.